Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am very excited for you guys to meet this very next guest. I've known him through social media for very long. I've heard wonderful things through my best friend, Melanie Bomer. Well, now, oh my God, she's not even Melanie Bomer anymore. She's married now with a child. It's like too long. My best friend, Mel, who I've definitely talked about before on the podcast, who we're trying to get her on, which it's been, I can't believe, like I see her probably more in person than virtually. But anyways, Melanie has told me so many great things about this next guest, and I'm super excited to have him here. And he's actually here on his birthday, which is insane to me that he chooses to work on his birthday. But I'm super excited because I think it's an opportune moment to learn even more outside of just the field of nutrition and performance and athletes and, you know, having weight loss goals and aesthetic goals and all the things. So anyways, Erik is a registered dietitian like myself with a ton more credentials. So I'm going to have him run through those. Erik, welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
Thanks, Tony. I'm stoked to be here. And I'm glad that Mel has said many good things about me. So that's,
it's funny. I used her original, like her last name before marriage. I've known her since college. So at this point, I mean, we're so old. I think I met her I don't want to say that. I'm sorry, Erik. I have no idea how old you are.
I don't take offense, so it's all good.
But anyways, it's been a long time. Anyways, Erik, please introduce yourself by sharing who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do. Yeah,
for sure. Well, my name is Erik Bastillo. I'm the son of immigrants. My mom is Cuban. My dad is Colombian. And as far as the credentials go, I have my master's in applied exercise science and sports nutrition, my bachelor's in dietetics and nutrition. So that's my registered dietitian, my RD. I'm also a fellow of the ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition. I'm also a certified sport nutritionist through the ISSN. And being a fellow of an organization is just kind of means that you've done something or multiple things that are kind of, just that really stand out to help the organization and the field of sport nutrition. So I got that FISSN at last year's ISSN conference, which was pretty cool. I'm also a certified strength coach and a certified personal trainer as well. And then there's other things that I do in practice, like I use motivational interviewing and I do health coaching. But those aren't letters after my name.
Yeah.
And I work as a registered dietitian, as a nutrition coach and lifestyle coach, as a strength coach as well. And I have my hands involved in quite a few different things. Excuse me. I have my own consulting business. That's not my main, that's not where the majority of my time gets taken up, but a good amount of my time does, because in my consulting business, I'll have private clients that I work with, that they will sign up for monthly coaching. And I also do different things like testing on individuals. Like I have an in-body machine, so I'll measure body comp and go over that with people, and doing different nutrition lectures. I also am the in-house dietitian at our gym. I say our gym, I'm a part of the staff. It's like my second home. I love that place. It's called Train 89 or CrossFit Coconut Grove down in Miami. And I'm the in-house RD there. And I'll also coach some classes there too, some CrossFit classes. And I'll also train clients, although personal training is not the bulk of what I do, but I'll have a couple of clients that I'll do either just personal training or like some strength and conditioning for them. And I guess my full-time job, in air quotes, is with a company called Marathon Health. And Marathon Health is a wellness-based company where essentially we have clinics or wellness centers and we have contracts with different organizations. The contract that I work with specifically is with a municipality down in South Florida, maybe just 40 minutes north of Miami. It actually runs in line with Fort Lauderdale. It's called the City of Plantation. And what we have there is a wellness center where I'm the RD health coach and strength coach. So people who are in the contract, which in this case is the City of Plantation employees. So from people who do lawn maintenance, who work parks and rec for the city, council members or the city mayor, police and fire, they can come and use the clinic. And in the clinic, we have a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, and a medical assistant. So it's basically a medical clinic, but the idea is prevention. So we make sure that they do their annual checkups, where it's either an annual physical or just like a health review where we check their blood work and we go over those things. And they can see the physician assistant or nurse practitioner if they need to. And they also have access to me. And in that, I also coach a couple of fitness classes for the city employees. And I also started a functional training class for the PD with the police department. I really enjoy the tactical athlete population, as well as Gen Pop, the general population. And in this work with Marathon Health, I also do like presentations, like we'll do Wellness Wednesdays. And of course, the fitness classes are a lot of fun and one-on-one coaching. And then outside of that, I also am involved with an organization called O2X. I'm actually wearing the shirt O2X. And this group was started by actually 3 former Navy SEALs. And what we do with O2X is we put on workshops that help to educate and bring about change and impact the lives of people who are predominantly like first responders. So it'll be police, fire, different military groups. So I've done things like with the Navy, with Army groups. It's a lot of fun to get to do that. I do it all over the country. I'm actually traveling today on my birthday. I had a workshop up like in the Northeast-ish area. I think I kind of hit on the head the things that I do. Also try to stay involved in research as well. So trying to get involved in some research studies, and I would like to do some research on like the CrossFit population. I'm a fan of CrossFit and the methodology, and I just like fitness in general, and seeing the impact that it's had on people is pretty awesome. So there's that. And then why I do what I do. I love to help people. I like to make an impact, and maybe this is a little bit selfish, but I like to know that I helped someone make a positive change in their life. And just kind of, again, I say selfish because it's like, it feels good to be a part of their journey and to know that I had some sort of impact. So I like to help people and educate people. That's actually why I got my master's, because you need a master's to be able to teach like at a university level, or so they say. So I got my master's, and I like making an impact and helping people and helping provide information that is actionable, right? That it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just like something that's realistic for somebody to do, creating sustainable changes, and just to be that person that can educate them on that, and maybe like, bust some myths that they hear in the nutrition world. I think is very important with a lot of misinformation that's out there, but communicate in a very, in an empathetic way, right? Like using compassion, listening to what they're saying, and then help them create some kind of like a permanent change. So it's I like to have that impact on people. So, and I think that's why I do what I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Your passion obviously like stands out. I mean, I thought I did a lot of things. That's a lot. That's a lot, but it's funny because you're like, and before you're recording, I was like, it's your birthday. You choose to work on your birthday. I choose to go to the spa on my birthday.
Now, I will say this though. I will say, like as a part of my birthday, so my girlfriend, she's an athlete, and she was training over in Spain, training and competing in Spain. So she had a week off. So I went and met with her, and I was there for a week. Kind of like an early birthday.
Yeah.
And then I came back stateside, and then I traveled last night, and today is obviously my birthday, and I did do some work. I had a workshop today and another one tomorrow, and then I'll continue doing some birthday things afterwards, where I'm going to meet up with a friend of mine and do some like hiking and camping with a group. So yeah,
that's so great. That's great. Okay, so I have to ask. So, how young are you?
I am 35 years old today.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So 35. So I don't feel too bad. I'm not too far off where I was like, I'm so old. But 35, that's a powerful year too. I feel like in the zeros and the fives, they're like,
for sure.
You know?
But so I agree with that. At the same time though, I try not to give age too much credit.
Yeah.
I think we oftentimes like we make a big deal of like 30, and to each their own, right? I respect people's ways of going about things, but I feel like we often limit ourselves. I'm like, yeah, I'm whatever age. I'm 35 right now. I feel amazing. I feel, I mean, I don't know what 35 is supposed to feel like. I don't know what 70 is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
I know what I felt like when I was like 18 or 20 or whatever. And quite frankly, I feel amazing. But I don't ever want to limit myself.
Totally.
By my age.
And one thing I have noticed in like, it's, there's funny memes about it and you can joke about it, but basically there's the if you look on like TikTok or Instagram or anything, there's so many jokes about when I turned 30, it all went downhill because like things start to ache more, you're more tired. Like you don't have as much as like resilience when it comes to like stress and drinking alcohol and like all these things. And it's just like, life is so much harder, quote unquote. But it honestly, like, it's actually kind of sad because our life expectancy, I think it's probably like 90 at this point. I feel like if you know what I mean? Like, so let's say it's 80. 30 is not old. 30 is super young. 35 is super young. 40 is even young. You still have more than half of your life to do whatever you want to do. Think about how much you were able to accomplish in 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. You can decide and choose to make your future different and brighter. But if you think like, oh, I'm old already, I may as well not, like, or have all these limitations, then yeah, you're going to be limited. And that's just sad that I think, put it in our head that it's like we're not capable or not able of doing the things we used to be able to do because of our age.
For sure. It's just a self-limiting thing. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of when I have like patients or clients or just general people just saying like, blaming their age for their health issues and whatnot. And obviously I'll recognize as we age, sure, certain things can happen.
Absolutely.
I get that. But to blame like a complete metabolic slowdown on our age, I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. And it's actually not that accurate because you don't just magically turn 30 or 35 and your metabolism plummets. Will it be harder? Probably, but not really because that's a natural thing. It's because you've dieted for so many years that your body's like, what the hell are you doing to me? Because of the extreme restrictions, the ups and the downs, that's probably what's contributing to your slower metabolism. But if you don't diet like that, your metabolism doesn't have to get that much slower as you age.
For sure. And there's even a lifestyle component that I like to tell people to kind of think about. Like,
truth.
I tell them, consider, because we'll always, I shouldn't say always, but oftentimes we talk about, when I was young, and when I was young was like high school. I say, okay, compare your life now to when you were in high school. A lot of people, I think it's safe to say, were probably more active when they were in high school, walking to class or walking to school or walking from class to class. They were probably potentially athletes when they were in high school. So probably played a sport, and their weekends were probably also doing active things. Then comes college. And for some people, college, they have like the freshman 15 or, whatever their experience was. Their physical activity goes down. Their overall general movement goes down. They maybe study a bunch or they take up partying, and they're not very physically active, and then graduate and then probably start working. When you start working, exactly. So you wake up, you drive to work, you get to work, you sit all day, you get back in your car, drive home, get home, eat in front of the TV on the couch or whatever it might be.
Or even now working from home, most people have transitioned because of the pandemic. There's not even that little baby commute anymore.
For sure. So then it's like, and not to say that they're doing it wrong, right? I don't want to condemn anybody or say like,
no, not at all
wrong, but to just take a step back and evaluate, how does my life compare before to now? And is there physical activity? Have I done a lot of like the quote unquote yo-yo dieting? And how's all that going to affect my general metabolism and everything else, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Before we get into the chunk of today's episode, I would love to hear some basic reflections from being 35 years young. What are 2 or 3 things that you have come to realize are important for success, for life, for happiness, for, I don't know, whatever you want, whatever's on your heart, talk about. What are some of the lessons you learned in 35 years that you need the people to hear?
I think learning acceptance is big, because I think if we learn acceptance, we could also work on letting go. I think letting go is a big one. Maybe some of us, I know that I've been guilty, most definitely, of holding on to things, and that doesn't really help. I think maybe we don't have to forget, but it's important to forgive for sure. So letting go of different things, and understanding that everybody is different. So nobody is me. And that helps remind me that the expectations that I have for people, I probably shouldn't have them. And I don't mean that in a negative way, saying that people are going to let you down. But why should I set myself up for being let down? If I know that I function a particular way, I shouldn't expect somebody to function the same way that I do. At the same time, and another life lesson is, I think we should be over communicators. I think it's important to communicate with each other about things, with patients, with clients, with loved ones, whether it's parents, siblings, close friends, significant others. I think over communicating is huge. I also think it's important to listen with compassion. I think that the world could get so much further if we had compassion, and understanding that we all have a past, we all live in the present, hopefully, and there's hopefully going to be a future. And how can we make things better for that? How can I make myself better for that? And I think these things that I've just shared help with that, because I think that unfortunately there's a lot of, there's not enough listening to each other. There's not enough compassion being practiced when we talk to each other. People kind of fall into camps, and it has to be only their way, and they're not willing to listen to what someone else has to say about something. And if this is happening in our personal lives with people that we love, including patients and clients, right, then we're not setting ourselves up for success. If I'm helping somebody, how can I help them if I'm not truly understanding what they're saying? If I'm talking with a loved one, how can I expect to progress in our relationship if I'm not truly listening to what they're saying? And then on social media, you just see this like crazy. There's keyboard warriors, people going after people, not really knowing full stories, and people that just kind of like, they pick one thing and they're dead set on it. But it's like, wait, maybe we can try listening to each other. And it's been crazy now, like with the pandemic and vaccines and like all this stuff. And in the nutrition world, we've seen this for years. We've seen it. There's been diet tribes since forever. But now it's like, it's just things have gotten so like crazy, like into camps right now, that it's just like, dude, we're stopping ourselves from progressing. And I think those are some life lessons that just kind of came to mind.
I love that. I think that's so great. And yeah, you're right on the last point. Like, so many people feel like they need to like pick a side. It has to be one way or the other way. And like, they don't take the time to really hear the other person's side and to just know it can be both. It could be one for work for you this way and works for me this way. Like, doesn't have to be so polarizing. And I think within that, even when in the nutrition world, like that's where all of these, like, people get overwhelmed. They don't know what to believe. Like, they're so confused, right? So I know one thing that you definitely do a really great job at through your social media profiles is really going through those myth bustings, right? So I think it would be helpful if we could kind of talk about, since you do specialize, it sounds like you work with the general public, but also like sports nutrition. So I guess because the people who are listening, most people here probably aren't like professional athletes, but they are probably like weekend warriors, or they're probably doing, HIIT training multiple times a week, or they maybe are part of CrossFit, or, they are working out on a regular basis. So I like to call them like, day-to-day athletes, like,
I like it, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess like, what are some of the more common myths that you see when it comes to nutrition and performance?
Well, I think one of the big ones is that when people say and this comes down to just getting adequate nutrition coming in, right? So when people say, well, maybe you're not eating, maybe you're eating like too much carbohydrate or not enough carbohydrate. And the reason I'm kind of picking on carbs right now is that it's so misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I guess the myth is that it's more so just like a misunderstanding against carbohydrates, and especially for performance, because the idea, and this probably comes from diet culture, just overall, is that carbs are bad, right? And unfortunately, a lot of things they revolve around weight loss and performance nutrition and physique nutrition. They're not one and the same. They have things that overlap for sure, but they're not one and the same. So when I hear people talking about, you got to eat less carbs and you're going to feel better, that's not really true for performance. So that's definitely one of the big ones. Another one that's kind of annoying is that too much protein is bad for you or bad for your kidneys. And there's just...
I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I mean, when me and Mel were in school, so that was college, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I don't even know. I can't do math. We were taught that. I'm going to be honest, we were actually taught that. So we had to stay up to date with the research and to realize that actually it's only problematic if you have chronic kidney disease and you're in stage 4 or 5. That's the only time where but 90% of the population are not, by the way. That's only if you have a medical condition that warrants that, right? Other than that, that's actually not true, know? So it's interesting that and I think also too, that's probably where a lot of people get frustrated or confused, because science is evolving always. And so it's eggs are in, no, eggs are not in, you should have the yolk. No, you shouldn't have the yolk. Not for nothing, we are science, we can be wrong when science comes out and shows it can be different, and that's okay. So it's but yeah, so I understand the frustration of the listeners. They're probably I don't know what to believe. For
sure. Yeah. And that's especially the protein one. And this is where it's also kind of are we allowing our own beliefs to get in our way? So for example, nothing against any particular diet tribe or camp, but one that I see oftentimes make these really bold and fear-mongering claims it's going to be the vegan population. They'll say things protein and animal protein and these very specific claims that I think just come from a place of wanting to prove your point, instead of a place of accuracy and kind of sticking to what science has shown. It's coming from a place of perhaps emotion, and everyone should, in this particular case, should go vegan. And so I'm going to make a case, and I'm going to read one little article, and maybe not even read the actual scientific research, but just read, something that a website skimmed over and their takeaways from this study and whatever's going to fit my bias. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to confirm my own bias, because I think that vegan is the best way to go. So anything that's animal protein related, I'm going to talk about how it'll, I don't know, whatever claims, make your hair fall out or make your bones weak or damage your kidneys. And I'm what? Like,
not for nothing. Like when you don't have enough protein or vitamin B12, those are actually
exactly.
like the actual opposite. That's a terrible argument if that's what someone chooses, because
for sure.
Yeah.
But you know the science.
No,
right?
I know. But yeah. But that's the thing too. The guys, for those of you who are listening, like you can't always believe everything either. Like, where does this source? Like, do they have a motive? You know, and kind of just like, I don't want people to think that we're against the vegan community at all. I have vegan clients that's the lifestyle they choose for multiple reasons. For some, it can be just like for one client I have, she just has issues with textures. So like animal protein for her is just like, she just has an issue with it and she can't get over it. So we have to also then work harder to make sure she is supplementing with things like vitamin B12 and that she is getting enough adequate protein from plant-based sources. And, you know, it's a way we pay attention to it. But I think what Eric and I are saying is that there's no one way. And that if you're trying to prove that there's one way, you'll find reasons because you can confirm any of your beliefs by cherry picking the data. Like that's very possible, but is it really, you know, true or accurate? Probably not 90% of the time.
For sure. And what lens are the individuals who are giving us this information? What lens are they seeing it through? Mm-hmm. You know, this is kind of like those pictures that like, if you look at it one way, it's like a man and a woman talking.
Yeah,
it another way or whatever, how you perceive it, it's like a duck. I
love that. That's such a great analogy. It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
I like to think about that too, because it's like you said, where is this coming from? Because I don't think that there's any wrong way of going about your diet. Like as far as your nutrition is concerned, I think there's a right way of doing keto, a right way of doing vegan, a right way of intermittent fasting. It's just, there's certain things that we might want to focus on to optimize. Like, am I eating enough? Am I getting adequate amounts of protein? Is there enough variety for me to get my vitamins and minerals? I think that's important for any type of nutrition regimen that we follow. With that being said, we just have to be very mindful of extremes. Extremes are when people speak in absolutes, I think it's just a flag that's kind of like, you know, that's a very absolute statement. Where is this coming from? Like what's their background? What are their credentials? And, you know, like you said, you probably shouldn't just believe anyone blindly, maybe except for us. Right. But
that's the thing. You're not believing us blindly. That's what I was going to say, but I'm like, well, that sounds like confirmation bias right there. But I was thinking that, but like, you know, you trust us. Hopefully you've been listening to my podcast. Maybe this is the first episode you listened to, so I can't say, but I've had listeners. I mean, this podcast is like 4 years old. I've been blogging since college. So like 14 years at this point. Like, you know, I'm not going to give you I'm going to show you all the sides. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. You know, and
For
also
sure.
too, even like, because you mentioned intermittent fasting, and I definitely want to bring that up because I just do believe that a lot of people think like fasted cardio is the way to enhance their performance goals. So I do want to bring it back to that. But like, even like with my stance on that, like because of the population that I work with who really have a strong background of either disordered eating or potentially an eating disorder that just was never diagnosed, like for me to encourage intermittent fasting, regardless of what the science says, just from an applicable standpoint, really doesn't work. So that's where it's like, I'm not going to dismiss, there might be some studies, although right now from what my more recent research, it's inconclusive of there's these quote unquote health benefits. And also from a performance standpoint, from my research, what I've seen is that it's actually not beneficial compared to a fed state, but you might say different. But that's the thing. Like, I'm never going to not show all of the pieces of the puzzle, but I'm also going to at least put my opinion in on when it comes to applying and for who and for when it's appropriate. Right. So I think that's also important when you're listening to someone. You know, I love what you said about like the absolutes. It's never an absolute unless it's like, trying to think of an absolute, like, I mean, eating less than 1,200 calories a day. That's a pretty much absolute. Like, please don't ever do that. I don't think that will ever be appropriate. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like there are certain things that I can say, but that's where it goes into the extremes. Right. So I think we're all saying the same thing. Yeah. So Eric, why don't you speak a little bit about intermittent fasting? Because I think depending on who you talk to, it could be really trendy and it could be an appropriate strategy for some, but I'm curious in regards to like this idea that, eating, almost like breakfast is bad. I've been seeing a lot of that recently. And breakfast in the means of like eating early, because we know breaking the fast is just a breakfast.
Breakfast could be at 2
breakfast could be at 2 p.m. But not everybody understands that. So maybe you can just talk a little bit more. I just like totally rambled.
Yeah, no, all good. I think you definitely gave some good context, because it's easy to get caught up with a particular idea. But then again, looking at it in this particular case, not through what lens are we looking at it through, but I think asking the question of what's the best case for this individual. Because although maybe studies will show that higher intensity performance is better if someone is not fasted, I think we should ask ourselves, well, what's going to be better for this person? If it's someone who just doesn't feel well going and training, having eaten something, they would prefer to do it fasted, and they feel that they perform well enough. And I'm like, okay, then let's do that, right? Like, go ahead and give that a shot if you feel fine enough. Sure, if they're able to stomach a tablespoon of honey or half a banana or maybe a little bit of oatmeal. It depends on the person specifically, because for me, I know that I can have oatmeal and go and do like a high intensity weightlifting, like CrossFit kind of workout. For other people, they're like, yeah, right, oatmeal, I won't be able to do anything for like an hour. So everyone is different. But I think it's also important to consider what your schedule looks like. For some people, fasting might be the optimal way, just because they're not very hungry when they wake up and they have a bunch of different things to do, pack things up for the family, children, husband, wife, whatever it might be. And then they just kind of have to go about their day. But their workout is going to happen at some point, and maybe their workout has to happen at 5 a.m. And maybe eating something at 4:30 isn't an option for them. And that's okay. They're also probably not trying to, compete in the highest level possible. They're probably just doing this for fitness, and they want to get a workout in, train their muscles, get some high intensity stuff in, or whatever their workout's going to be. And although we could definitely make the argument that they would potentially benefit more from consuming something, and that could in turn help their overall performance, help their physique if they have physique goals, or just get a better workout in general. What's the risk reward analysis showing us here? Well, maybe they're going to benefit from not having something, because if they do have something, it'll be in their gastrointestinal system. Maybe they'll feel like throwing up. Maybe it'll cause them to have some sort of like diarrhea, whatever it might be. So what's the most practical approach that's actually going to help this specific person achieve whatever their specific goals are in a way that they're not feeling sick because they consume something? And I think that if we just try to look at it in absolutes, we're going to say, oh, no. It has to be, you have to do things fasted, because you're going to burn more fat if you do it fasted. That's not really the way, because you can do a fasted workout and then overeat in the rest of the day and do that consistently and not lose weight or potentially gain weight if something like fat loss is someone's goal.
Right.
So yeah, that's a very roundabout answer, but I think it's important for a lot of us to understand that it doesn't have to be one or the other. I mean, two things can be true, right? And at the same time, we want to consider what's the best case scenario for me if I'm going to do fasted or not fasted.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the lesson here, guys, I hope you're hearing is experiment with you and your body and know that it can change. Like there are some days, like for example, today, I slept in a little bit later. But when I woke up, I had maybe like an hour and a half before my workout. So I had some grapes. Like I didn't have a full breakfast, but there might be times. And then when I came home, I ate after the workout, but there might be times where I wake up and it's like, I'm doing an earlier workout and I just have, coffee. And honestly, I just go and but I eat right when I get back. There's other times where I'm hungrier. And so even though I have an hour and a half to kill, I might actually have like a little bit of cereal, or something like that, or something a little bit more substantial, or something like an oatmeal or whatever. And it really depends. I think once you realize that it doesn't have to be one way or the other way, also I don't want to say but, and also experiment with what works best for you, you could actually learn that it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Like sometimes you can feel better on it depends on the intensity of the workout, depends how much sleep you got the night before. It depends if it's the beginning of the week or the end of the week, probably for some of you, right? Like you're going to go at your workouts at a different intensity and in a different way. And also too, your meal the night before. I think the only reason why I was able to do it with just a little bit of fruit before my workout was because my dinner was at like 9 o'clock because that's when I got a chance to eat. You know what I mean? But if I had dinner at like 6, I probably would have woke up a lot hungrier for breakfast. And then I probably would have ate a little bit something more and then allowed myself to digest it before my workout. So that's the thing, guys. It varies. It totally varies. And there's not one way or the other. But if you believe that you feel better on a fasted, go for it. But if you feel better on a fed state and you feel like then it doesn't lead to overeating later and it keeps your energy stable and your craving stable, then you don't have to go through the torture of starving yourself in the morning to get through your workout. Like working out is hard enough. Why make it harder on yourself?
For sure. I like that.
Yeah. So, okay. You mentioned kind of, I think, and a lot of people are listening, like they're probably, not really, maybe they care about their performance goals, but they also do want to lose weight. Like, I feel like that's super common. Like when someone joins something like CrossFit, when someone joins, Orange Theory, when someone joins a gym, right? Our intention is to go to do their workout, maybe, signing up for like a marathon or a half marathon or something like that, right? Like they have this idea of they want to get stronger in the gym. They want to be better runners. They want to be better lifters. They want to, enhance their, mileage or whatever it is, but they also want to lose weight. So can you talk, because I love what you said earlier, that they're not the same, right? Aesthetic goals and performance goals are not two of the same, right? But so how would one should someone, or can somebody do both in a healthy way?
For sure. My answer there is an absolute yes. It can be done. Mm-hmm. I think that it's important to again, kind of trying to get away from the stuff that diet culture has taught us. And when I refer to diet culture, I mean the over restriction, the scaring people into thinking that a particular food is bad or should not be consumed. That's what I'm referring to as far as diet culture goes, in case anyone wonders about it. But I think that we want to get away from the eating 800 calories. We want to get away from like the quick fixes. And I understand we might want to get results very quickly. I don't blame people for that. It's almost like a natural human thing. The instant gratification is something that is, it's very humanistic. That being said, something that I like to tell people when they get started on some kind of like journey like this is trust the process. So having trust is a huge part of just moving forward with things. Being patient, which that's a skill, and staying consistent.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Those 3 things. We need to write a post. Well, that's those are critical, absolutely critical.
For sure. So, having that in mind, the trust the process, be patient, stay consistent. I think that this is not going to be the thing that people want to hear, but I think it's what people have to hear is that give yourself time. And a part of give yourself time from a practical approach is if you are seeking to decrease body fat or just lose overall weight. And ideally, when we lose weight, it would predominantly be body fat. Not to shame anybody or anything, but we don't want to lose muscle is basically what I'm getting to. We naturally lose muscle as we age, sarcopenia, right? So anti-aging is muscle preservation, basically. So how do you do that? Lifting weights, getting adequate protein, not starving yourself kind of thing. So again, the point that I'm trying to make here is if we're going to lose body fat, ideally, we would do it on as many calories as possible. So that can take some work. I oftentimes tell people, like, if you're willing to do this, and if you're willing and it's something that won't affect you in a particular way, because what I'm going to ask someone to do is to track their meals. So if they can log their meals for 2 weeks and weigh themselves on a daily basis and then get the averages of those numbers and see what happened with the weight, see what's happening with the calories. That's more objective data. Now, I also recognize that some people might not be willing to track what they were eating. If someone has a history of eating disorder or something along those lines, it's usually not suggested that they track. I have worked with people in the past who had eating disorder, and they were actually willing to track. And we had a very good conversation about all this stuff because I don't want to set someone up for failure. But that's not going to be the case with everybody. In that case, if you're not willing to track, I think taking your time and just being mindful of how much you're eating and what's happening with your physique over time, because we don't want to starve ourselves in order to achieve a particular physique goal. That can have huge negative impacts on things like hormones, our immune system, energy levels. And we just don't want that to happen because we were extreme dieting, basically. So losing body fat on as many calories as possible is I think something that is important for people to try to accomplish.
Right. So what you're saying is, just for those who might not understand, like you're saying they still need to be in a calorie deficit, but the calorie deficit doesn't have to be extreme. So that's when he says like eating as many calories as possible. Like it sounds like counterproductive, but like meaning like within a calorie deficit. So rather than putting yourself on a 1,200 calorie diet, if you need say 2,200 calories to, supply your needs, then your deficit maybe see what happens when you do 1,900 a day or something like that, like
exactly.
So that way you have the energy for your workouts, right? But then you're also like, there's many things that food benefits our bodies for, and then we're getting adequate protein to preserve that muscle mass, getting enough carbs too, though. So it helps to support your workout, but also brings the carbs to the muscle, right? Getting enough fat to help absorb certain micronutrients, right? They all work together. So I think that's really, really important. Sure. When you were speaking, it was funny because you said we really have to kind of let go of diet culture and kind of that narrative that there's good foods and bad foods, because you had given the example when we were talking about like eating before a workout of honey, bananas, and oatmeal, all carbohydrate rich foods. And I just was like, I feel like there's so many people that are trying to do both. They're trying to enhance their performance and lose weight. And because they have the diet culture in their head, that they would feel guilty. They would stress themselves out to have honey before a workout or to have oatmeal or bananas, anything you just said, they wouldn't be doing that. So now they're putting this stress on themselves from a calorie deficit, from this food's not good, from a high intensity workout. And now that will disrupt your hormones, right? That will disrupt your metabolism. That will make it so much harder on yourself. So I love that you're giving people permission to incorporate carbohydrate rich foods, because it actually will enhance their performance goals, but it also can keep them too from going back and forth in this yo-yo all or nothing mentality.
Most definitely. And with that, there's with the ISSN, we have a position stand on, it's like recommendations for exercise and just overall like supplements. It's like this big review paper. And there's this hierarchy that I like to refer to for athletes. Now, when I say athletes, I'm not talking about only the people that are in the NFL and WNBA or, whatever it might be. I mean, just good old regular athletes. Like I think people who are training on a regular basis, like you can consider yourself an athlete. Mm-hmm. And this hierarchy is like a hierarchy of needs. And the number one thing on that hierarchy of needs is energy, calories. So getting adequate calories is such an important piece. I think giving yourself some time is so important, because making sure that you're eating enough and at the same time trying to get some body composition changes to happen, it can take time. It could absolutely take time, but that's okay. Don't be in a rush for it. Just take your time with it and learn to do it in a way that works well for you. Because number one, first and foremost, is making sure that you're getting adequate calories. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that those calories only come in the form of sour Skittles. There's definitely not enough nutrition there, but there's enough calories, not optimal, but you're getting calories in that. That's where the other parts in the hierarchy come in: the macronutrients, the timing of your meals, the micronutrients, the water and hydration. All these things play a role, but first and foremost is making sure you're eating enough. So I think keeping that in mind is super important.
Yeah, I love that. And notice how he didn't mention supplements, but if he did, they were at the very, very top. They're not at the bottom. They're at the very, very top, right?
For sure. So, and they're in there. You know,
they're in there. They're important. Trust me. I definitely think that there's, and actually I'm about to post something tonight actually about like the top 7 supplements that I recommend, because there is definitely a time and place for supplementation. Absolutely. However, it's not the main thing. It's the bonus. It's the cherry on top, right? It's the
in particular cases, right? Like someone did blood work and they have a vitamin D deficiency.
Correct.
Hey,
in that
you
sense,
should probably take a vitamin D supplement. Little things like that for specific cases. And then there are supplements that I'm a big fan of, like creatine, for example, or even like
that's on my list.
Yeah, heck yeah. It should be like on everybody's list.
Yeah, literally. Well, why don't you, because I don't know if I'm probably going to record a podcast about like all the supplements that I'm recommending and that I typically recommend. But why don't you, just for people listening, why would somebody want to take creatine?
So creatine, it's beneficial for performance from being able to maybe lift a little bit more, or maybe help you run a little bit faster or train a little bit harder and whatnot. Because at a cellular level, it can help with fueling your muscle cells with that ATP. Our muscles need ATP to be able to function properly, and creatine can help with that. But creatine is also an antioxidant. Creatine could be beneficial for hopefully preventing or slowing down onset of like neurodegenerative diseases like MS,
Alzheimer's,
Huntington's disease. Actually, just today I was giving a presentation and I was mentioning that like if I know of someone who gets diagnosed even like with Parkinson's, I recommend that they take creatine as well. So there's performance benefits, and then there's just clinical or just overall general health benefits to creatine as well. So I'm a big fan of creatine.
Definitely. Guys, and just so you guys know, I'll put a link in the show notes of where you can get creatine from. And if you use my link too, you can get a discount. So nice. I'll throw that in there. I may as well. But yeah. And then just to go off of that, I think, it's one of the most widely tested supplements, I would say, in probably in sports nutrition. Would you agree? Like it's been like tested, tried and true multiple times again. Sure. The hesitation, I think, for women, or maybe we should just give like a disclaimer, which is so silly, but it's true, but like about how it can create some water retention. So for whatever reason, there's like this idea that like it's good for men and quote unquote bad for women to take creatine, based off the fact that like you might step on the scale and like see it go up a bit because of water retention. Is that true? Like speak about that. Cause I find it's like crazy that because that you might get on the scale and gains a little bit of water weight, you would be hesitant to take something that could enhance your performance and potentially provoke, have benefits with your, brain health.
For sure. Yeah. It's unfortunate that that's kind of the idea, because if someone says something, and creatine monohydrate is the one that's been studied the most. And at this point, there must be over 1,000 studies on creatine. I want to say creatine is the second most studied like supplement or ergogenic aid, second to caffeine. But caffeine is a big one also. Although I don't really take it, but creatine, the way that it works is literally it works because of fluid retention, so to speak. But this isn't like you get puffy, like you touch your skin and now you have like edema where your body's holding on to water like that. It's this like intracellular fluid retention, which is how it benefits the muscles. Now, the proven quote unquote side effect to creatine is technically weight gain, but weight gain is not a bad thing. You can gain weight by wearing a belt that's heavier than, whatever else.
I love that. I use the example of like, if I ate my phone, I would weigh more than my phone. My phone doesn't have any calories, but I'd probably weigh like 2 more pounds.
For sure. Exactly.
I love that. Right? Yeah.
So with creatine, it's like there could be water retention, right? And again, that's kind of how it works. It's like an intracellular hydrator, if you will, for your muscle cells. So that actually helps them function better. But it also doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to gain weight. If you take creatine, there's not this like automatic you're gaining weight. It depends what your training looks like. It depends how much creatine you're taking. It depends what your nutrition looks like, how much you're eating and all of that. Because you could also lose weight while taking creatine. Just remember, creatine is not going to contribute to fat. If anything, it's going to contribute to gaining lean body mass or muscle, right? So that's actually a good thing.
Right. Yes. Because more muscle means faster metabolism.
And it's like, I feel like muscle we have to try to preserve it as much as possible because aging is something that none of us can, like we can't do anything about it. Right. Every second that passes, we're literally aging. It's just this very slow process. And some people will say living is just a slow way of dying, if you will. It's kind of morbid. But how do we practice longevity, which is living as well as you can for as long as you can? And nutrition and physical activity play an important role there. And, we're talking about like life expectancy and whatnot. The last time that I saw the numbers, and this might not be updated, but I think the average lifespan is 78.6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's also a term that's health span. And health span, so lifespan is basically born to death, right? Health span is how many of those years, what's the span of actual functional living optimal years? Like that health span of not having to rely on some sort of help, or like your years of not having disease. And our health span average is like 67 years or something. So there's 11-ish years of not living functional and optimal. And I do think that suboptimal nutrition and lack of taking care of our muscle mass and our overall structure it has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Oh my God. All right. Well, this has been such a great conversation. Erik, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything that you want to share last minute before we wrap up?
Last minute, if you want to follow me on social media, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Erik Bastillo, ErikBustillo. And also for anyone that's interested, this is for athletes and practitioners alike. The ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, we have our annual conference. It's on June 16th to the 18th down in Fort Lauderdale Beach in sunny South Florida. So it'd be awesome to see some people out there. And other than that, just don't listen to the crazy information that's out there. Listen to the people fighting the good fight and just keep on making the world a better place.
Yeah, I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, make sure you follow Erik on Instagram. His handle will be in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, take a screenshot of it, share it on your story, and tag me at tips_with_Tony with an I, and then tag Erik as well. And if you're not subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. A new episode comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. All right, that is it from us today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.